Hello, welcome back to everyone that's tuned into our channel, American Ultra Screw. Here we are today. I'm joined by Braden, Shrey, and Jeff. We're bringing to you a really nice video, a little bit of fantasy here. We're trying to predict the 2024 Olympic team for the United States. Keep in mind, we're not going to go into the complex details of what goes around this call-up because the roster is going to be made up of players that are released by their clubs, and there's also Copa America happening prior. So we're just going to bring to you the best possible 11 and roster in our opinions without the considerations of the complex details that go behind it. So just to start off and go, I think we're going to have a consensus here. I go with Gaga. Braden, do you agree with me?
Yeah, it has to be Gabriel Sonina for me. I mean, he's our most experienced U23 keeper, and he has the most potential as well.
Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Gaga too. Not only Chelsea bias, just potential bias.
Yeah, no, we'll let you off with the Chelsea bias. This one makes a lot of sense. Shrey, do you go with Gaga as well?
Yeah, I do. No debate, really.
All right, now I'll go for my right back. I'll go with Joe Scally. Really experienced, really solid player. So I've gone with him. Perfect age as well. We're so lucky to have him being important in the time frame that we need. Braden, who do you have?
Yeah, I went for Scally as well. We're unfortunate that Dest is a couple months too old for this roster, but with our backup for the main team being underage, then we're good.
All right.
Anyways, yeah.
Who do you have starting right back?
I also got Scally too at right back.
All right. You, Shrey?
Yeah, I also have Joe Scally. There's a chance that Gladbach might not release him if he's part of Copa, but I'm just assuming that they do, so I'm going with Joe Scally also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even taking that into consideration, just writing down the strongest possible one here. All right, the center back position, I struggle here personally because I don't think we have that many options considering the age restriction. But I've gone with Brendan Craig and Jalen Neal very reluctantly, in my opinion. I'm going to, just disclaimer, I might use an overage player later on in the video, but those are the two ones that I have that are under the age requirement. Braden, which ones are your picks?
Yeah, I've gone for the same duo. I think this is the position where we have the least amount of depth, unfortunately. I really like Brendan Craig. I don't think he's gotten the correct opportunities yet at club level, but for the U20 national team, he's been very good. And Jalen Neal as well. I mean, we saw what he can do at the Gold Cup.
Yeah, and we don't know the coach either, so that's another thing to add here. But if Mikey Varas is there, I'm sure that he trusts Craig enough to give him a call up. Jeff, I'm interested to see which ones are your picks for center back position.
Jalen Neal. And the other one, I'm going Justin Shea. With Craig, he's a solid player, but I just prefer I prefer Justin Shea a bit more than him. And also, he's more versatile than Craig. He can also play as a right back, and and I just prefer him more in my opinion.
All right, Shrey, which ones are your two center backs?
I went with Jalen Neal and Brandon Craig. I just think they're the two most highest. They have the highest potentials out of the U23 center backs that we have in our pool.
All right, that's fair. Now moving on to the left back position, I have John Tolkien, a little bit reluctant as well to give him the starting spot, but I'll go with him. He's experienced. I think he has shown flashes of his capability, and he's a regular starter, so I think that's going to count a lot for this competition. Braden, who do you have starting on the left back position?
I actually went for Caleb Wiley. I think Tolkien definitely has more experience, and that could be beneficial, but I think Wiley has a lot higher of a ceiling. And he's a little bit more versatile too. He can get up, I think, a little bit more than Tolkien can. So yeah, that's why I went for him.
All right, Jeff, are you picking your New York boy?
He's not a New Yorker. He's a Jersey native, but never mind. I'm going to John Tolkien as well. I was stuck between him and Wiley. Jogo, I kind of given up on him already. So yeah, time to move on. Yeah, I kind of given up on Jogo. Well, there's like a small spark inside me that says maybe, he can still, redeem himself after playing decently at the U20 World Cup, especially that goal against Ecuador. I'm gonna go John Tolkien for experience, and he offers more support than Wiley, even though Wiley is a good player. Just a bit inexperienced in my opinion.
All right, Shrey, who are you picking?
I also went with Caleb Wiley, just because he can also play on the wing. That's where he's been playing mainly for Atlanta. And, if we need someone in that position for our wingers in case they get injured, I just think Caleb Wiley. So, yeah. And I do think he has a much higher ceiling than Tolkien.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a no-brainer. One of the reasons why I picked Tolkien here is because of my formation. All right, moving on to the midfield positions. I've gone with a double pivot personally, so I'm choosing Tanner Tesman, a holding midfielder. He had a really good season for Venezia. Should be having a good season this year as well in Serie A or Bundesliga or wherever he goes. Really physical. I think he's good at winning the ball back and reading the play, so I'm going with him for the experience as well, playing with high stakes. And Yunus Musa next to him. I mean, goes without saying, I think one of the highest ceiling players we have in the entire roster, not only with the age restriction. Guy's really experienced. Let's hope that he has a great season, and he's used to playing next to a CDM, a natural CDM, so he can do that box-to-box job really well, in my opinion. Braden, who are your two picks for the double pivot?
I went for the same two players. Like you said, Tanner Chessman has experience in high-stakes games. Obviously, last season with Venezia, starting off in a relegation battle when he first got his starting job, and then moving them up into a playoff position. So fighting in high stakes at both ends of the table. And provided he has a solid season in Serie A, presumably next year, I think he'll have enough experience to be ready for this tournament. And then Yunus Musa, he's a bit younger, but we know how much experience he has with the senior national team already. So I think he's ready.
All right, Jeff, do you have any shockers here? Any different picks?
Yeah, I already made up my mind with the formation. I'm going with the 4-3-3 with the 6 and 2 8s. At the 6, I got just like you said, Yuri Tanner Chessman, and with the 2 8s, I'm putting what is it called? Composure midfield with Jack McGlynn and Yunus Musa partnering up with each other. McGlynn on the right, Musa on the left.
All right, Shrey, who are your picks? Are you going with a double pivot or 3-man midfield like Jeff?
Yeah, I'm going with a 3-man midfield like Jeff. So my 6 is Tessman, and then my 8 is Yunus Musa, and the 8 that's in a slightly more advanced role is Chiorena, provided he is available. And there's really no questions asked. I mean, Chiorena is like one of our best players, so is Musa, and yeah, Tessman. So.
Yeah, I think that we are really blessed in the midfield aspect. Now, for my wingers, I've gone with a 4-4-2. They're not really wingers. They're going to be just right and left midfielders here. So I've gone with Taylor Booth, who has done that role really well, in my opinion. I think his future is going to be centrally, but he has defended quite well when he was playing for Utrecht. Good work rate. And I have Gio on the other side. I mean, it goes without saying, the guy's super talented, so I had to put him there. And yeah, those are my 2 picks. I think they would work well in this system. And Braden, over to you. Who are your wingers?
Yeah, so I'm going to say my 2 wingers and my 10 in my 4-2-3-1. And on the left, I went for Cade Cowell. He's a very raw player, I think it's fair to say, but the talent is there, the flashes are there, and he's very exciting. He always looks forward, and he has experience with the senior national team now. So I think he's ready. He was also probably the best player for us at the U20 World Cup. On the right, I went for Gio Reyna. I mean, it's understated how good he is for us. He'll be far and away the best player out of our U23 group. And for the 10, I went for Paxton Aronson. I debated putting Reyna at the 10, but in a 4-2-3-1, we often see our wingers drift centrally a little bit. We've seen that with Pulisic in the main team. So I think Reyna would be just fine on the wing in a free role. So, and I wanted to get Paxton Aronson in there because he's lacked experience with the national team, especially this summer. He was snubbed from the Gold Cup squad. He wasn't released for the U20 World Cup, so I think he needs some experience eventually.
All right, yeah, I really like those picks. I think that team would definitely cook. All right, Jeff, you had a 3-man midfield. Now, who do you have as your wingers? I'm supposing that you have 2 of them.
There's a bit of a twist in my formation. I'm going with the false 9 instead of a striker. Anyways, the 2 wingers on the right, I'm going with Kevin Paredes, and on the left, I'm going with my favorite U20 player, Brian Gutierrez, and as a false 9, Gio Reyna.
All right, Jeff, that's definitely unexpected in my opinion. I mean, good players.
I told you, it's a twist.
Definitely a twist. All right, you, Shrey, who are you picking? for you?
Yeah, I don't think mine will be nearly as much of a twist as Jeff's, but on the left I have Kevin Paredes. Jeff had him on the right. Paredes played on the wing a lot for DC, and I think he's really comfortable there. On the right, I actually have Malik Tillman. He's been playing there a bit for Rangers, but he's definitely comfortable from the moments I've seen him on the right wing. So I think he'll do a good job there, and yeah, I think he's a really promising player, and hopefully he gets to move to Stuttgart or somewhere. And yeah,
That's nice. Good shout. All right, moving on to the striking position. I have a striker partnership. Two strikers up there leading the team. I have Balogun and Pepe. I think we're really fortunate to have both players being within the age restriction for this tournament. Like I said, a 4-4-2, a little bit holding. The two fullbacks that I have would do good defensive work, in my opinion. I'm not sure about Token, but I think that we should have a really good team with Balogun and Pepe up front. Lots of goals. This tournament has a lot of young defenders, so I think they can definitely exploit that. And they would be really experienced going up against some really young center backs in this tournament. So those are my picks. Braden, who's your striker?
For my striker, I went for a Fowler and Balogun. I think it is unfortunate that Pepe would be on the bench because I think he's definitely good enough to start. But my concern with a two striker formation is just I don't think we'd get enough out of our creative players. I had Reyna, Paxton Aronson, Cade Cowell in there, and potentially an overage player as well. Who knows? But yeah, I'm just worried we wouldn't get enough creativity in the team with two strikers.
All right, Jeff already said his false nine. Moving on to Shrey. Who do you have leading the line?
I mean, it has to be Balogun. It just has to be. So yeah, I don't have anything to add, to be honest.
All right, now we have finished our lineups. Let's go to the three senior players we would call up. I'm just going to say mine in order, all three of them. I'll call Chris Richards. I think he has to be there. Center back position, we look really light, in my opinion. And I know he's not the most experienced, but I think he's the best center back that we have. Really high ceiling. And taking into consideration, he's going to have another full season to develop and hopefully get more minutes. I back him to be a really pivotal part of this team. And I have, this is going to sound a little crazy, I have James Sands as one of my overage players. I just think, considering the scheduling and the position for a natural CDM, I'll put him in there. And I think it'd be easily released as well. So I try to put some realism here. And I have Captain America, Pulisic. If we want to win a gold medal, he has to be there. I'm putting Chris there, and he's hopefully, again, trying to predict the future here, but hopefully he would have a good season in Serie A, flying high, really good Copa America. He wants everything. He goes for the gold medal, leads us there. So those are my three picks. Brayden, who are yours?
Yeah, for my first one, I went for a center back as well. And I mean, for this position, we basically have the pick of anyone we want. All of our senior team center backs are over the age of 23. And I went for a bit of an unorthodox one. I went for Mark McKenzie because I don't think he's going to be at the Copa America. And I think he deserves more of a chance in the national team. So, and he's overage as well. And we have no depth at center back. So we definitely need to call someone in. I was between him and Tim Ream just for a little bit of experience. But I decided to give McKenzie the nod. For my second one, I went for our captain from the senior team, Tyler Adams. I think we need a little bit of leadership in the team, and I think the 6 is probably one of the positions where we're the weakest, and having a controlling, ball-winning midfielder in there would really, really help us out, especially with if we're playing with a 10. So I went for Tyler, and then, like you said, Christian Pulisic has to be there, Captain America. He's said in the past that he wants to be part of the Olympic team, fight for a gold medal. And yeah, I mean, he's our best player in our pool, so he has to be there if we're serious about contending for a gold medal.
All right, great picks. Great picks. Jeff, who are your 3 picks for the senior players to aid this very young side that you called up in the starting lineup?
Yeah, mine needs some experience, so yeah. Just like you said, Yuri, and I was skeptical to have him, already being a starter in this team. I'm gonna go with Chris Richards as being one of the first, first team players. My second player. We could use some more experience. I'm gonna just go Tyler Adams as well. And finally, the golden boy, Pulisic. Just for that. Just for that, motivation, experience, and also the inspiration, the leadership, the face of this team.
All right, great picks, Jeff. You totally didn't just pick them right now. I mean, that's no, but great picks, Jeff. I agree. I mean, I was really between calling Adams instead of Sands, honestly, but I was
Yeah, me too.
Realism. But yeah, that's great. Going on with Braden as well. The same picks as Braden. Shrey, who are your 3 senior players to help this side hopefully win a gold medal?
Yeah, so I also went to Chris Richards. I mean, I think he's our best center back, and actually second best center back right now. Tim Ream's my top right now, actually. I don't have to talk about that, but yeah, Tim Ream's my number 1. I actually brought Austin Trusty also. I think I brought 2 center backs. I think Neil and Craig, while they are promising, I just think more experience is needed. So yeah, I brought Trusty and Richards. And yeah, so my last player is Pulisic. I mean, he's our best player. Like Brandon said, he wants to play in the Olympics, and yeah, I mean, he'd add a lot to this team. He'd add the motivation. He'd add quality. He'd add leadership. I mean, yeah. So Pulisic's my obvious last pick.
So now moving on to our bench. Unfortunately, FIFA has the brilliant idea of a minimum of 3 goalkeepers on this 18-man roster, which really limits us here. I mean, we already have Gaga there, great goalkeeper. I've gone with Chris Brady and Cochin. I mean, Cochin, I know he's really, really, really young, but if we're wasting a spot anyways, might as well give it to a guy that I think will be involved in the future. Great preparation for him to the next, just to rub off some experience, hopefully from Gaga. And I've gone for Jack McGlynn. I think he's going to be really important in this tournament. Can pick a pass like no other, has some bangers in him as well from long distance. I've gone for Cowell, and I think he's a really good player. I mean, like Braden said, explosive, raw talent, and again, playing against some young defenders, so I think he can flourish there. I've gone for Jonathan Gomez for his versatility as well. I think he can play on both fullback positions. Hopefully would have a little bit more experience as well for this Olympics. Paxton Aronson, who I honestly tip to start if my formation starts doing bad in the tournament. I think he has to be there, so talented. And Kevin Paredes as well, again, for the added versatility and experience as well for such a young player. So yeah, those are my bench players apart from the goalkeepers. Braden, who would you call for the 7 guys to be on the bench?
Yeah, like you said, the 3 goalkeeper rule really limits things because you're only left with 5 players, like field position players on the bench, which really sucks, and it means that versatility is going to be a huge thing. We do also get to see 4 alternates, and I'm going to mention those real quick just because I think they deserve a mention. So for my alternates, I went for John Tolkien as a backup fullback. Jalen Neal, actually, I had him in my starting lineup, but I'm not putting him on the bench because I'd replace him with McKenzie, and I don't think he has the versatility needed to be one of the 5 players on the bench. Jack McGlynn, like you guys said, just so incredibly calm and poised on the ball, and he needs to be here. But again, he doesn't really have the versatility in the midfield. He's basically just an 8. And then Cade Cowell as well. But then for the goalkeepers, I went for Chris Brady. I think he's the pretty clear number 2 option in the U23 pool behind Slanina. And I went for Gavin Beavers as well, starting for RSL, who are one of the most informed teams in MLS, and I think he deserves a look in at least. For the lone defender I have on my bench, I went for Justin Che. I do think Jalen Neal's a better defender than him, but for the added versatility that he can play right back also, I think that's important to have on the bench. For a midfielder, I went for Tanner Tessman. He would have made my starting lineup, but I replaced him with Adams. And yeah, I think he can play as a 6 or an 8, which is pretty important. I don't think McGlynn gives the cover at the 6 that we would need for the bench. And then I went for a striker, Ricardo Pepi, obviously. I mentioned earlier, it's a shame he can't be starting because of Balogun, but he definitely deserves to be a super sub off the bench. And then for my last 2 players, I went for Malik Tillman and Taylor Booth, just 2 very versatile players. They can play at a 10, play in the midfield, also play either wing. So I think the versatility is absolutely key.
Yeah, I think versatility, like you mentioned, is going to be crucial for this tournament as well for the amount of games that we have in such a short period of time. Just to clarify, I had Jonathan Gomez out because of my Sands call-up, really controversial one. And I had Neal on the bench as well. That's why I had one on this bench. But Jeff, who are your players to be on the bench and be the backup that we need in case something happens?
Okay. Since FIFA wants to be different and that three keepers in this roster, it's gonna make it a lot harder for me to fit in. But oh well, here goes nothing. Obviously, Gaga's backup. You got Chris Brady, literally filled in his shoes at the fire, but he's not getting the hype that Gaga got. But here he is. My second goalkeeper is Diego Costa. It's an obvious one. It's a no-brainer. He can use the experience in this Olympics. And then I got Gutierrez on the bench. I got Tessman, unfortunately, is on the bench. And finally, I got Justin Che on the bench too. And then for the strikers, I'm going with Ricardo Pepi. Since I don't have a striker in my lineup, I could use one. And finally, the last player I have is Paxton Aronson.
All right, I think that's a really good bench, Jeff. Honestly, a really, really good bench. Shrey, who do you have as backup for this competition?
Yeah, so for my backup keepers, I have Chris Brady, Kaga's backup at the fire, and now obviously taking the spot. I have Diego Cochin, and just because he's the third keeper, he probably won't play much, and he's very talented. Now, obviously, Pulisic replaces Caleb Wiley. I put Paredes back as left back, and Jalen Neal and Brandon Craig get replaced by Trusty and Richards. And then for my two last players, I have Paxton Aronson, very talented player. He definitely needs to be on this roster. Honestly, it's a shame that he's not starting he's not part of my starting lineup. And Taylor Bitt's my final one. Honestly, he should be a starter on this team too, but he unfortunately isn't. So two really versatile players. Aronson can even play as up top if he needs to, on the wings if he needs to. And Taylor Booth can also play on the wings and in midfield. So that's why these are my bench players.
All right, that's a stacked bench. I think it shows the quality and depth that we have going forward, especially in this competition. We should be aiming for a gold medal. We'll probably do a video similar to that when we get closer. I mean, it's still a year away. And now you guys can also see our full lineups. I'll present to you guys next in the video here. My lineup, Braden's lineup, Shrey's and Jeff's as well. You can compare, pause the video if you'd like, and see which one you think is best. Make sure you leave a comment as well. Thank you so much. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and comment down below any future ideas for top 10s. And if you enjoyed this video, we'll see you next time. Thank you.